day 56 of the war has brought a series of claims, military claims, some more substantial than others. One was that the United States would sink on sight any Iranian boats they saw putting mines into the Strait of Hormuz. Well, the American ships are the other side of the blockade line. That's about 300 miles away. They can't do very much. It's possible, of course, that the US could operate their aircraft, say, from Al Udeid in Doha. But if they did, they'd have to have aircraft circulating in this area, ready to go against any boat that they saw planting mines. That would actually leave them in a relatively vulnerable position, hanging around, waiting for a target. They're not likely to want to do that. The problem with mines is that although some of them require quite a lot of specialist equipment, like these moored mines and maybe even the seabed mines, the floating mines are very easy to sow. Any motorboat can just throw floating mines off the back of the boat and be away again. Floating mines are very dangerous because they can go anywhere. They go with tide and current. They can effectively close a big area of water because they just spread out. Dangerous thing to do, but nevertheless, if the Iranians decide to do that, there's not much that the Americans can do about it in reality. The other thing the Americans said today, which doesn't have a great deal of credibility, is that the blockade is now total. Well, maybe it is, but it hasn't been until now. Cargo tracking services have revealed that up to Wednesday this week, 34 ships came and went across the blockade line, 19 going outwards, 15 going inwards, and indeed about 10 million barrels of Iranian oil, they said, went through the blockade line up to Wednesday this week. Maybe the blockade line will be tighter from now, but it hasn't been so far. The issue which the Americans are much more credible on is their reinforcements. The USS Tripoli, an amphibious assault group, that's been in theatre for a while. The USS Boxer is on its way, another amphibious assault group. And by early next week, the United States will have 3 carrier battle groups in the area. They have the Abraham Lincoln, which has been there for some time. They have the Gerald Ford, which is on its way into the Red Sea and is now down at the southern part of the Red Sea. And they have the George H.W. Bush, which has been on its way up the coast of Africa, and that will be in theatre very soon. They will soon have 3 carrier strike groups, 2 Marine Expeditionary Units, the 31st and the 11th, with a great concentration of power. And not least, they have at least a brigade from the elite 82nd Airborne. And that will give them another 3,000 parachute troops. So 10,000 extra troops in total added to the 35 or 40,000 they have in the region as a whole. That's a really powerful force. What's it there for? To intimidate the Iranians, possibly. Also to persuade the Iranians that they really have to make a deal in Islamabad. It looks as if the Islamabad talks might now be on again for some time over the weekend or early next week. But here's the problem. One of the spoilers to the Islamabad talks is the war within a war in Lebanon. And although there has been, last night declared, a 3-week ceasefire in Lebanon, which is good news, that's not likely to be a complete ceasefire. And the Israelis have got their agenda. And their agenda is to create this forward defense line, this buffer zone, all the way along southern Lebanon, right through to the northern part, into Mount Hermon, which they've already occupied, including parts of Lebanon and parts of Syria. The Golan Heights doesn't belong to Israel, but they've annexed it. In international law, that's illegal, but nevertheless, that's where they are. And the Israelis are determined to hold on to that buffer zone to protect northern Israel. Equally determinedly, Hezbollah will not be disarmed, and they are determined at some point in the future to completely destroy Israel. So whether or not there's a 2 or 3 week ceasefire, this war within a war will certainly go on. Which leaves us back at the possibility of some resolution in the coming days. The fact is that both Iran and the United States really want to get out of this. They're both looking for a way out. President Trump says he's in no hurry to make a deal. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary for War, said today, we have all the time in the world. He actually said it twice. We have all the time in the world. They don't. The clock is ticking for both sides on this, but I think the clock is ticking ever more loudly for the US side.